Well, good morning and welcome everyone this morning. My name's Steve Bland. I'm the CEO for WeGo Public Transit. We are always delighted to kick off, unveil, break ground, cut ribbon on a new service, facility, or initiative. We are doubly delighted when, in the process of doing that, we can honor some of the leaders of our community, as we recently did with Dr. Patton at the groundbreaking for our North Nashville Transit Center. But today we have like a super triple delight in that today's event is commemorating a community leader who is one of our own. Today we're here to commemorate the renaming of WeGo Central to the Elizabeth Duff Transit Center at WeGo Central. You're going to hear a lot of wonderful things about her, and you'll see some storyboards about her. But proudly, she was a bus operator for WeGo, MTA, back in the day. And she has had a succession of family members work for WeGo. And we want the family to keep bringing us employees. The Duff family might be our #1 recruiting source. And we appreciate that. I'm going to be really quick, and I'm going to turn it over to the chair of the Metro Transit Authority Board, Gail Carr-Williams, to start the program. But before I do, I wanted to acknowledge the presence. We have several speakers, dignitaries here this morning, but I also wanted to acknowledge some other folks who are in the audience. I know Vice Mayor Angie Henderson is here. State Representative John Ray Clemens. I know I saw John Ray in the back. State Senator Jeff Yarborough, also former MTA board member. And Victoria McCoy from Congressman Green's office. Thank you, and please give our regards to the Congressman. Did I miss any of our elected officials? Eric usually does a terrific job. Oh, I'm sorry, the lights are. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Eric usually does a superb job of keeping me informed, but we'll work on that. So without further ado, I'd like Gail Carr-Williams to take over.
Good morning. What a glorious day to celebrate a legacy. You know, that legacy is sort of a odd thing, right? Because we usually talk about it in ways that are loving and embracing. And today, Elizabeth Duff deserves that. And so does her dear, dear, wonderful family. So I'm grateful to be here. You know, I'm sort of reminded about, I was talking to Mayor O'Connell about this. I remember in 2008 when we stood in this space, and I'm certain Elizabeth was driving the buses, and we moved from Dedrick Street to here. I don't know, some of you in the room sort of remember that. And so it was when we opened Music City Central, we moved off a busy, crowded, cold, hot, snowy, almost impassable Dedrick Street to this spacious, beautiful indoor-outdoor transit center. And we didn't know what to call it. So we called it Music City Central. Why not, right? It was spacious, it was great, and it was getting people to and from. And we built this for our riders, but we also built this for our drivers. I remember very distinctively after it was here, my dad came to visit Nashville, and I said, Daddy, you know, he was a bus driver in Detroit for you. I said, Daddy, I want to show you this place. And so we came down, he toured it, he was so happy. But he was moved to tears when I showed him the space where our drivers get to go. He was moved because he said, oh, finally a place for drivers to be able to take a meaningful break. We don't have to run into a restaurant on our route to do what we need to do. It was a place for community, for drivers, and it was a place for them to sort of feel that comfort. And I was grateful that I was on the board to be able to have the opportunity to make certain that we were building a space for our drivers as much as we were building a space for our riders. But the reason why we knew that is because we had drivers and we had meaningful leaders like Elizabeth Duff to let us know how important drivers were to our community. And she continues today to sort of keep giving us that vision and to give us that legacy. You know, she came at a time when there weren't any women drivers. She came at a time when there weren't any black women drivers. And you know, where she probably had to deal, well, you can't drive, or you're, all those things that were negative stereotypes. It didn't hinder her. It didn't stop her. She was strong. She was courageous. She was a leader. But for her, I would not stand here with you today to be able to celebrate her legacy. And while we're talking about her legacy with transit, her legacy is so much bigger and brighter. I look out at her family, and I've had a chance to meet you all on different occasions, and every time I come, I feel like y'all sort of my family too. So I feel very warm about that, and I feel very grateful that I get to be the board chair in this moment at this time to talk about this. Speaking of courage, I want to thank my fellow board members because they had the courage to sort of think about naming this after her, and unanimously voted and unanimously supported the idea of what naming this building after such a hero could mean, not just for MTA WeGo, but what it could mean for Nashville. We are naming a public building in Nashville after an African-American woman that endured, a woman who took us further than our imagination could have imagined. Probably even more than hers. I don't know. Everything I hear about her, though, Mr. Duff, I think that her imagination probably went that far. What do you think? I think so. But I am grateful. I want to just leave you with one more thing. A quote. I think a lot of times about how we have how sometimes we got to figure out how we move forward. And Ruby Bridges said, "Don't follow the path, go where there is no path, and begin the trail." Looking at her family, knowing that family members are indeed part of her legacy, right here at MTA, continuing the same safety, the same kind of commitment to the things that she believed in, is indeed a trail that we should all look to follow. Thank you so much, and so grateful today for being able to stand here with the support of our board, with the support of all of the staff at MTA, and the support of Metro Council for also voting to make certain that this legacy stands in Nashville for all to see and for all to follow the trail. Thank you, and congratulations. I'm so sorry. I forgot that I had one more duty to do. I'm just so moved by all of this, so I forgot my duty. You know, speaking of when we first started in this building, Mayor O'Connell was new to our MTA board. No, I'm aging myself in here too. And we stood on the podium, but we were out there on the podium, and it was great to have him because he was this writer. He knew everything about transit. We thought we knew everything about transit, but he knew everything about transit, even then. And he sort of grew in this role as a board member to support transit and help grow transit in this city in ways that we didn't even expect, speaking of trails. So today, knowing that he served so wonderfully on this board and taught us all so much, I am grateful and honored. Like, this is my first time really being able to introduce you as our mayor, Mayor Freddie O'Connell. What an honor, Fred.
Well, thank you, Gail. Thank you to the members of the Duff family who are here. It is obvious that the next step we ought to take at this facility is to set up a merch shop so that anybody can get a Liz Duff t-shirt. I think that would actually be a wonderful thing to do. But Gail spoke, Chair Williams spoke quite a bit about trailblazing and progress. And I think one of the reasons that I am especially proud to be here today is the journey that I took, that I got to personally experience a lot of the progress that Chair Williams shared. 20 years ago, when I was a more regular transit user, bus rider than I am today, on a cold night last night, on a chilly morning like today, we would have been out in open air, you could barely call them shelters, on Dedrick Street. And that is what a generation of Nashvillians using transit, riding the bus in Nashville experienced. 15 years ago, one of the very first things I got to do as a brand new board member for Nashville MTA, now WeGo Public Transit, was to open this facility. And to Chair Williams's point, this facility gave dignity to riders, but it also gave dignity to operators. And when you are a regular rider, you start to make friends on every bus that you ride on. And some of those friends are your fellow passengers, but some of those friends are the drivers too. And so to create a culture of bus drivers, and I hope everybody that is here that is a visitor, or even family who don't know all of this, takes the time to look at this presentation about reflections on Elizabeth's life, because it is a journey, and it is progress, and it's necessary progress. And one of my favorite moments thinking about the culture in this city, the culture among operators and bus drivers and staff at this incredible organization that helps people access this city, was several years ago when I was still on the board. I bet there are not many transit authorities, transit agencies in the United States of America where bus drivers actually come together to make music and cut a 7-inch vinyl at Third Man Records by Jack White. But that happened here, and that is all part of a culture of people starting to blaze trails for others and demonstrate why this progress is necessary. And I'll say this progress continues to be necessary. This week, we were reminded that this 20-year journey that I've been on, this decades-long journey of service that Elizabeth shared with so many of us, is so important, is because Nashville remains one of the worst commutes in the entire United States. Among top American cities, we have insufficient transit service. And it's not because of any of the people sitting here. It's because we as a city have not made some of the tough choices that we need to make. And so as mayor, I stand here as a former bus rider who has worked with our bus driver community for so long, intent on making sure that over the next 4 years, we lean into that and improve service. But today is about a huge moment for this city. Today is when we officially dedicate the Elizabeth Duff Transit Center at WeGo Central. So congratulations to the family. Elizabeth was a pioneer born and raised here in Nashville. She got her first job as a courtesy car driver for a Chevrolet dealership in the early 1970s. And 4 years later, she became not only the first African-American bus operator in Nashville, but the first woman as well. And this story shows some of that, but you all know in the audience, and Harry knows, she was a kind mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and great partner for 55 years. So to the Duff family, I'm here to say thank you for carrying on this legacy, especially Seneca, who currently is here on staff at WeGo. The work that you all do allows Nashville to operate and allows us to be a city that is more accessible to everyone. I know that coming here, which I still do, it's going to be great to have Elizabeth's name not just present for me when I'm here, but as a reflection from this day forward. And I look forward to even more Nashvillians coming to know her story as we continue to expand service and ridership and bring drivers and riders together at not just this facility, but other community transit centers around Nashville. So thank you all for being here. And now it is my honor to introduce the new representative of District 19, Councilmember Jacob Coupin.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor O'Connell. As he said, my name is Jacob Coupin, the new councilperson for District 19. A 2021, oops, the microphone keeps moving. 2021 New York Times article tells the story of Miss Duff in segregated Nashville in the 1950s, trying to sit in the front of the bus as her mother grabbed her back, telling her it was not allowed. Her daughter, Verpy E. Carter, is quoted saying she didn't like it when people told her not to do certain things, and went on to say, she's probably thought that one day I'm going to sit at the front of that bus and I'm going to even drive that bus. Well, as you heard, in 1974, that dream became a reality, and Mrs. Duff became the first woman to drive a bus in the city of Nashville. In the face of opposition, criticism, and even racism and sexism, Mrs. Duff prevailed. This year, our Metro Council also had a historic election, electing the first trans woman in the state of Tennessee, and also achieving, for the first time, a majority status of women in our council. I imagine Mrs. Duff would have been pleased with these historic wins. It's also an honor to be here today with another trailblazing woman in the transit space. You'll hear soon from Jessica Dauphin of the Middle Tennessee Transit Alliance. I just finished taking her transit leadership course, which the mayor and so many others are alumni of. Jessica's working hard to push for dedicated funding and enhanced transit across the region for affordability and accessibility for all. And I believe Mrs. Duff would be proud of her work as well. And you've heard a lot about legacy, and it's exciting to see the legacy that Mrs. Duff set continue with her children and grandchildren and her whole family here today. And finally, I'd like to congratulate the whole family on this historic moment. I hope that everybody who comes through the Elizabeth Duff Transit Center think about Mrs. Duff's trailblazing leadership and her great contribution to this city. And it is my pleasure now to introduce Jessica Dauphin.
Wow, I hope I can live up to that introduction. Thank you. There's not a lot that hasn't been said, but I want to say it again because this is such a momentous occasion for me as a woman to be here and talk about what it means to be a trailblazer. Yes, it's a pioneer, and oftentimes on this side of it, there's a tendency to romanticize that being a trailblazer is full of heartwarming moments and maybe basking in the glow of appreciation. But as we can see by these quotes from Elizabeth Duff, that is not the case. It is tough. You have to be hard-worn and you have to be dedicated to your goal. It's really remarkable to be able to take a glimpse back in time through her words, and we're to be reminded of what this path really was. As a woman, I recognize that I stand on the shoulders of trailblazers like Elizabeth Duff, who pioneered a path forward where there was none. I love the anecdote of really not liking being told no very much. She endured the challenges that comes with change, and she did it with grace, courage, and steadfast hold on her goal. And I've been waiting to say this all morning. Everybody pay attention. Nevertheless, she persisted. And she remained committed to her own childhood dream of driving a bus. And how many of us get to say that we got to live out our childhood dream? What a gift for Nashville. What a gift for her family. She embodied excellence, not just her job, but at so many things. And throughout it all, she showed the utmost dedication to her riders because it was her purpose. At WeGo, the relationship between bus and operators and riders is essential to what we do, and she embodied that. Her family continues that, and that is a legacy that few get to hold. We take an important step forward today by recognizing Elizabeth Duff in this way. By sharing her story on displays like this, in this timeline, we elevate it and we weave it into the rich transit history of Nashville, which is our history. I and we are so deeply grateful for trailblazers like Elizabeth Duff, who stand tall and hold steadfast to their dreams. Now it is my pleasure to introduce her lifetime champion, supporter, and partner. Sorry, I've got to get it right. Harry William Duff, Sr.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to say this starting out is that I just like to thank God for this opportunity for my best friend and wife. It's kind of biblical the way things turned out is that she wanted to drive a bus and she wanted to drive a big rig. That was one of her dreams. And back in the day when she was just a little girl and her mother carried her on that first bus ride, that triggered everything. That was a start. After that, she would watch everybody that drove. It didn't matter what vehicle it was. She's watching their feet and the way they move their hands and arms. She wanted to learn and she wanted to do that too. And she liked the sound that the buses made. When they start and when they picked up speed, she loved that energy that she felt under her. But just that in itself of that, she was more than just a bus driver. And she was a mother, a cousin, an aunt, a sister. She had an older sister that she never met that died long before she was born. And she had 3 older brothers, much older than she was. And she lost her mother when she was about 9 or 10 years old. So that kind of made her into what she was, the way she wanted to do things, because she had to rely on self to get some things done with just her father, which was, Mr. Ray was an older gentleman, but he loved his daughter. But she kind of had her way with her like she had her way with me. And I knew that, and but of course we always knew who was boss in our house, and I know my boundaries and limitations with her, and but I thank God for that, and I thank God for all the people that God put in their minds and hearts to do this for a woman, especially an African American woman or man. I have to thank him for putting that on their hearts, because he's behind everything we do. We don't realize it. And I thank him for that, because if it wasn't for him, none of us would still be functioning today. And he's still in control, what some people don't think. But Elizabeth was strong, and she was a person that wasn't confrontational. She tried to avoid any conflict even when she was on the bus. And that was one of my fears when she got the job to be a bus driver, is at the time they used to have money boxes when she drove. And it was always that danger that somebody wanted that money. And to take advantage of a woman that seemed to be, for some men, they were powerless. But I knew how strong she was. And And fortunately, we worried about those things, and I worried about that for all the women drivers, because she drove at a time when there wasn't any restrooms for women drivers, and that was a big problem for them. They had to go from place to place, to McDonald's or wherever, to see if they would let them use the restroom. And so many restrictions that they had to work through and to do their work and to be successful at it. And we had our riders. Some of our riders wasn't too good to a lot of our women drivers. And I remember once she's telling me about some women got on the bus one day, and she had hair down to her shoulders at the time when she was, and they pulled her hair thinking she had a wig. And she said, you know, just stuff like that was annoying, but you had to go through stuff like that to even do your job. And she always cared about how she looked. And I may be a little prejudiced, but I thought she was a really attractive woman. And but that was what got my eye the first time anyway. But she was strong in that. She didn't cause any problems. She endured it, and she went on. And some of the times when we think about women doing their work and on a job, they have two jobs. She had a job at home. She had, starting out, 2 kids. My daughter Virpi, my son Harry Jr. And for a few years, it was just us 4. And this last Seneca came, and she had to go through that with women and having children, that they had to go through to get some leave for women expecting children. So we had to go through that. And that was hard. And you know, her being the first lady driver, I think my whole family was the first driver. Because we went through the same thing she went through, and we had to do a lot of sacrificing, but it was for the best. And she always wanted to improve in her life. And she was a cheerful person. She didn't let things get her down. And she saved me a lot of times. I always told her that she was a lifesaver for me, because back in the day, and being a young man and having conversations with some people, and she was there, she saved me from having conversations. And I know she would always kind of put her arms around me, and she whispered in my ear and say, "It's time to go." And she would hustle me off. And I would thank her for it. But I said, "Well, what made you do that?" She said, "I could see in your face that you were about to do something that you shouldn't do." And I thank God for that. I mean, somebody that knows you that well, to see you and read you and your thoughts and your movements, that's something to know. You be with somebody that knows that they know you that well. And she knew me that well. And she knew how to manipulate me too. But I didn't mind that. I enjoyed that. And I thank God. And one other time that while she was working, I was working, and we couldn't take vacations all the time at the same time. But this particular time, I had some knee surgery. And she did this. She scheduled this thing because we were off at the same time, and went on a cruise. And I said, well, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'm off, and you off. We went on this cruise, and there's some other family members, and we went to Florida to board the cruise ship. And I like that because I got to get on. I'm in a wheelchair. she's pushing me along. Had knee surgery, and I got to get on the plane first. She got to get on first. First one to get off. First one to go on the ship. But we had to go up this long ramp. She pushed me up this long ramp. And as we got up to the top of the ramp, we had to go down a steep, just as steep as we came up. We had to go down one even steeper. Now she's pushing me, and all of a sudden, I feel the air just blowing, and I'm holding on, and my hat almost come out. I grabbed my hat, then I didn't know what to grab the wheels on the wheelchair. I said, well, I can't do this going too fast. I look back, and she's holding the handlebar grip off of the wheelchair, looking at me like that. And you talking about, I'm going down this thing, seemed like 50 miles an hour, and all I could see was glass doors, 2 big glass doors. And I'm looking, I said, oh Lord, this is over. And just as I got to the door, 3 or 4 big sailors come out in all white. It was like angels. They caught me, and they said, one of them say, man, you ought to seen the look on your face. Well, I was kind of angry at her about that, but after she told me that it wasn't her fault, that the things just come off, and I said, well, that's something I would never forget. I said, but accidents happen. But anyway, that was one time that we had a vacation together, and we had a really good time, and we enjoyed ourselves. And we had another time we went on a cruise with my son and daughter, daughter-in-law, and grandson, 2 grandsons, and it was a wonderful occasion. But Elizabeth was one of those persons that she wanted to do things her way, and she didn't care whether you liked it or not. She wanted to do it her way. She even one time bought a car, standard ship, that she couldn't drive. Now the guy that was selling her the car, he said, why you want a car you can't drive? She said, don't worry about that, I'm gonna drive it. And she had me there. She said, well, he's gonna drive it home, and after that, it's gonna be mine. And she was right. I drove it home, and every day, she had me in that car showing her how to drive the standard ship. And she drove that car every day. And matter of fact, she was working for MTA at the time. And before she went to work, she was in that car. After she got off from work, she was in that car. And she drove that car. I drove her to the parks. I drove on streets there wasn't a lot of traffic, where she learned how to drive that car on embankments, and steep, and going down hills where she could shift the gears, and where she could stand on in grade and not stall it out. And she learned how to do that. And she was going to determine that she was going to learn how to do this. And I said, well, she don't let nothing stop her from doing anything she wanted to do. She was that way, but like I say, she wasn't confrontational about anything. She didn't like having confrontation with people. She tried to talk everything out. But she was just that way. She was a real good person. She sang in church, and I liked her cooking. I miss her cooking. And all in all, she was just a wonderful person. And all the things that Elizabeth left me, the things I cherish most, and she left me some good things. 2 daughters, 3 daughters, 3 sons, and a host of grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. But the thing I cherish most is the memories that she left me. I think about her every day, can't help it. And I see people that remind me of her often. But that's the best thing we can do in life is leave memories. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this, and I'm gonna take my seat. Wherever you go in life, take God with you and make good memories. Thank you.
Can't follow that, but what we can do is ask Harry, our board chair, Gail Carr-Williams, and Mayor O'Connell to unveil the picture of the signage. We're going to take some pictures with family and other dignitaries up here, and then I believe we're also going outside to get some pictures in front of the actual building signage. So, Mayor O'Connell, Gail, Harry, if we could ask you. Eric, you'll tell them where to stand, right?